and welcome back to Rugby Rodeo. I'm your host, Sara, also known as Boda, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Emma Swords, aka Swordsy. And we're coming to you from the Spotify studios, where last week we were lucky enough to run into Diplo.
We did. So we just had to shout that bit out. But again, thank you very much for tuning in back to the rugby world. And there's been some really exciting things that happened this week. And we have some World Cup quarterfinalists now. So we will dive very deeply into all the results and everything that happened this week in the World Cup, and how we've come to have those finalists.
Yes, we have 7 of 8 decided for the quarterfinals so far. So we have England, of course, Canada, yay, not too loudly, Scotland, France. We have the Black Ferns, of course, South Africa, who we'll get onto later, who have been super impressive and have really made history for their nation. And Ireland, of course. And then we're down to our last 2. Will it be USA? Will it be Australia from Pool A? What are we thinking?
Well, there's a lot to go through, and Stato over here is definitely going to be able to shout out exactly how, if buts and maybes, either team get through. But it is definitely leaning to one side, a little bit more favourable to one team in particular. But again, anything can happen in a World Cup. So again, we will definitely get through all of that.
We'll get to the facts and figures of that later. But right now, we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to our rodeo cowboy girl. We have Jess, who had an amazing hat trick in her game against Samoa. We always knew that was going to be a strong performance from them. But wow, what a way for her to get her 50th, 51st, 52nd try.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
Well, I actually had to give her some stick because I was like, it's the first time you've ever done a really decent slide. And she's like, no, but when it's dry, she said, I just don't like the idea of like sliding in. But I said, bum looked great. You took full advantage of going in from a few meters. And she was like, yeah, I actually really enjoyed sliding over the line. So she done it in good style. She got some good photos.
She did. It's one of those games where it's messy, the ball's a little bit greasy, but then you get rewarded on the great shot when you're sliding into the try zone. And Northampton, I think I always say to people, that's like been one of my favorite pitches to play on in this country. It's
Ditto.
So cool.
Such a great pitch.
I feel when I say it around Quins, they get a little bit like saucy about it, a little sassy. And I'm like, sorry, they take great care of it. It's perfectly manicured. Like the stoop has been great, but Northampton,
yep,
Saints, you got it right. Pitch. That's a great pitch. And Jess definitely lit it up amongst her other teammates. Meg Jones had a great game. It was great to see Jade Sheckles come out in really great form. They're definitely missing the likes of their captain right now, but we think Marley stepped up in a really good way to fill that spot with all of her experience. But back onto Jess's try-scoring abilities. She's chasing a really cool record right now. So Sue Day, who has 61 tries in 59 games for England, still holds on to that record, but Jess is chasing that in a really big way. And I think Abby Dow is right behind it with 49, and our own cowboy Ellie is at it with 42 tries.
Well, do you know what Ellie said to Jess after the game?
Go on.
She said, "You're lucky I didn't get on the pitch because you wouldn't have reached that." And I truly believe that is the most Ellie backhanded compliment that she could have given Jess for being a record holder. Yeah.
I can just imagine that as like a hug after the game, like a really like sentimental moment, and her just like whispering, you're lucky I wasn't on the field because this might not have happened, and then like sprinting in the other direction.
And they do, Jess has given her plenty of stick before about, if you just gave me that last pass, I'd have been under the post and you wouldn't have had 3 people hanging off you and you having to dot it down in that manner. Ellie is now chasing with her, what's she on, 49 now?
42?
42.
And then Abby with 49. So breathing
Jess
down
has
Jess's
given herself a little bit of respite there.
Yeah.
Not that bit's competitive at all, that back 3. But.
Yeah, no, that was so great from her, and that's funny little friendship moment they have there to keep each other. We talk about that in rugby all the time, don't we? Pushing each other and being competitive internally, but then being the first one to pat each other on the back when they get the job done. So well done, rodeo gals.
So obviously more records have been broken. This whole World Cup is like record after record being broken. I can't keep up.
Right Every
now.
post is like new record,
game
new record.
2. But basically it's the biggest margin of victory for the Red Roses. It was a huge score, 97 points past Samoa. Obviously I think it'd be a bit stupid to look past the fact that Red Roses, highly professional, have been professional for years and years, had a lot of backing. And then one of their starting props was taken off, pretty early for Samoa. Mm-hmm. And the commentator made point that, she had a 5-year-old at home and an 8-month-old at home. And she called herself something like the chief exec of the household or something like that.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I was like, that is just, again, I know so many people were pointing out the different stories within this World Cup. That is just so poignant to see that we had a starting prop against some of the, if not the best front row in the world, in the Red Roses, and she's got an 8-month-old at home. She's playing rugby on the biggest stage against the best team in the world, and she's like, yeah, all right. Not just like a little back or anything, a front row. So kudos again to the girls of Samoa for putting up a fight and to level up on that. The amount of double contacts, double hits on those England girls, there was no running over these girls either. Abby Burton, probably one of the best ball carriers in the league, in the PWR anyway, and has definitely shown that on the world stage. Watching her run in off 9 and just be met with this brick wall, it was these girls aren't messing around. It's just they haven't had that same time and I guess exposure, funding, and all the other things which make a really professional setup.
That's so true, and I think the coach spoke about it so well after the game. He was really emotional in the press conference after of how proud he was that his group of girls stepped up and played the way they did. Like you said, no hesitation, double tackles, every defense coach's dream, get that hit hunt. And it is super frustrating for these nations that have that kind of deficit in terms of funding and money, but then they, make up for it in that spirit and that heart and that dedication that they have. And I think the commentators spoke about it so well. England came out on the other side of the try line, but we saw so much pride and heart from those girls running on the other side of the ball. And I think one of the commentators also said that, I think it was their captain, shared some kind of comment in a pre-World Cup press conference saying, yep, I'm a mom and I'm actually, making the call home to make sure my teenage girls get up for school in the morning. I'm like, that is so cool. That's just so cute. You're right. To hear these different stories of these women all over the world that are just championing the game in different ways. And yeah, we hope that the other nations can kind of close that gap and be able to be funded and supported in the way that they deserve, because they are showing up on the world stage in such a big way. But yeah, that was just such a heartwarming game to see. Yeah. And then when they made that, the 21-year-old who made the 3-point penalty kick, the whole stadium just erupted. Everyone was just so excited. They panned in the stands and you can see people with Red Rose jerseys just punch in the air. It's go sports, yes. Go women's rugby. So cool to see.
And it's so nice, that narrative again of, not everyone is going to be world beating. Not everybody is going to be, out there to win a World Cup. But to be, some of these girls probably have never left Samoa and they have been flown over to an amazing country. They're going to be playing against amazing teams, get to travel. This whole thing is not just about the points on the board and the wins. And this is bringing different cultures into different countries, exposing other fans to realise, well, I might not ever get to play for England. I might not ever get to play for, a top 5, team. But there are other ways of playing, and being a fun is what I'm trying to get at there. It's try and embrace that bit, because not everyone is going to be lifting trophies in their career. They won't have that opportunity. But that literally, for most women, to put their boots on and line up against England before walking out into a England World Cup it just shows how much heart is in this game, and it was so fun to see.
Period. Can't even follow that up. So well said. I guess if we do look to the point side and, the nitty gritty of, who makes on in this tournament, John Mitchell had a really heavily rotated side, and it was great to see a lot of those girls step up and put their hand up for that jersey. We saw only Jess and Meg return in their spots. Obviously, those two were incredible. We'll get on to how great we thought Helena Rowland was. Did you see anybody that gives you a glimpse of, okay, I think they could, push for that jersey that hasn't necessarily been theirs, but they wore it well in that game?
But I was going to go with Abby Burton.
Ew, okay. I was actually going to go for Abby Burton. You take over the forwards, girl.
So, you've got to give me a back.
Okay. I actually do have one. You go.
But again, I said about her ball carrying abilities and so on. She was coming up against Samoa that did not back down in that. But to step up to the plate, she had a lot of positive impacts throughout the game, and she's filling essentially Zoe Allcroft, who is one of the best players in the world, and she filled that position. She brought that intensity and that physicality the whole time she was on the pitch. So shout out to Abby. And again, her story has been highlighted of recently of suffering with encephalitis. She's had it's almost come round again of her anniversary of recovering from this. And I think it's another story to bring to this amazing World Cup, that somebody who couldn't speak, walk, couldn't even recognise her own parents when she was going through it. Mm-hmm. She's now out there filling the boots of Zoe Allcroft, making a statement in that flankers shirt, and just doing it on the world stage. So I think it was more of like a bit of an emotional, like, I'm so proud and happy for you, because that is some feat to get through.
For sure. And she's just gone on about her business in such an amazing way. Like, you're right, those posts will come up, and I love that she continues to share that story, because it needs to be pushed forward. Like, we face so many different types of adversity. You hope you never have to face something like that, but it just speaks to the character that she has to be able to, be in that kind of physical form, like not knowing how you'll be day to day, to absolutely tearing it up on the world stage. Yeah. She's still such a young player. We know she has that sevens experience, but wow, she's someone that just takes an opportunity with two hands and literally runs away with it. And I thought she was incredible in the game. And you see the videos when she had lost so much weight and she just was not in a good space. And then to see her be able to get back into this kind of form, like, we can't say enough good things about that gal and how challenging that is. Like, that's not an easy feat to be able to get back to match fitness, like, and not just, professional rugby, like international rugby.
And compete huge for the best team in the world. Like,
it's
so big.
All praises to you, gal.
Yeah.
I think my pick has to go to Jade Shekels. She really impressed me. Obviously, Tatiana Hurd has been exceptional in the 12 shirt, and we acknowledged how she was so pivotal for these last 3 years. The three-peat at Gloucester, there's no mistake why their backline has been so strong. But I think Jade has stepped up, and she looks really comfortable with Meg outside her. Helena, distributing. I think the commentators gave her a lot of love for, putting boot to ball and being really savvy with taking those opportunities when she had. But yeah, she's just like a powerhouse for me. I thought she broke through tackles when it was her turn to carry. She made no mistakes and, was really clinical, flinging the pass out to Jess or whoever was outside her in that game. But yeah, she impressed me. And I think I was like, that could be a cool 12 battle to see those two duke it out. But yeah, well done to her. I thought she was a shining star for me in that game.
So you've already mentioned Helena.
Yes.
Helena Rowland stepping into that 10 shirt. We've spoken before, and I think it's been years of the same chat around her. And so Helena, we're sorry if we're repeating the same stuff, but nailing down a position for this girl, it's about having her in your side, because she will break records, again, with how many points she scored against Samoa. And her stepping into that 10 shirt, you've got Zoe Harrison and Holly Aitchison. That's a huge competitive position to be in. And I think she distributed so well. She obviously kicked her points. And it's just, what more can she do given the position that she is in to be a real staple in that starting lineup?
It's almost like she heard us the other week when we said she's so versatile, such a utility player. Like, it sometimes is that like catch-22, like, it hurts almost, because now, you make a perfect sense coming off the bench to make impact. It's almost like she heard and she's like, no, you'll see what I can do.
She's obviously listening to this podcast.
Thank you, Hel, for your attention. But no, she's incredible. I remember playing with her at Lightning the past few years before moving over to Quins, and she's just one of the most skilled players I've ever met, and the most competitive. Like, she won't give you an inch in a drill. Like, I think I'm pretty competitive, and and I think there's lots of people around me in clubs that are, but she brings it to a whole other level, and just the standard she holds herself to, you can tell why she is so clinical and just executes on game day, because she holds herself to such a high standard. And yeah, I think she was on the money with distributing, and John Mitchell agreed that he thought she was class organizing the girls outside of her and just really taking the game by the reins there. But off the tee, excellent as well. And breaking that record for 27 points in a game, just hats off to you, Hel. You were incredible, and we're really excited to see what you get up to if you do listen to us moving forward in the tournament. But yeah, such a well played game from her, and I think she really put her hand up in a big way.
So we've mentioned a few times about different, I guess, superstars coming to see our games, start watching the World Cup, having an influence. We had Anne-Marie opening up the World Cup.
On that, did you see some of the hate that people were giving about how the dancers threw the ball as part of the act?
Yep.
And it was really cringy.
that clip needs to be not to
God
out
bless them. They did their
God bless them. But we were all there at one point.
Yeah, true.
We all spun the ball backwards. So,
true. We can't sit here and hate.
I would like everyone who gave them hate to get up.
Give it a whirl.
I'd like them to get up and dance.
Film yourself dancing in a tracksuit and throw the ball 15 meters, and then we'll chat.
Then we'll talk. But yeah, you do that choreograph that Anne-Marie obviously had for her, and then give.
Then we'll circle back.
Give them some hate, yeah. But we had Chloe Kelly, who's obviously the nation's sweetheart at the minute after the Euros and all the other bits and pieces that girl has been doing.
Yep.
But again, it's just that crossover of worlds that is coming into this World Cup, highlighting that, what Ruby Tui said in the last World Cup, like, we are here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say it in her accent?
No, don't make me do it. You have a better chance of that. But no, you're right. Like, we're here. Like, people said no one cared about women's rugby. Well, like, look at us. We're here. And it's so cool, to see women excelling in their other sports just put a hand up for us and say, hey, we're here supporting you too. And if we can gain this recognition, let's, throw you in the spotlight for that moment that you're there. I think it was really cool to see a lot of the Red Roses get behind the Lionesses when they were doing so well in the Euros, and Chloe just scoring that clutch penalty and then going over to the corner and just like basking in that glory. Like, let's have more of those kind of moments for women's rugby. So that was so cool to see. And we've seen like Mary Earps crossover with Ellie, like the jersey trade. Like, it's just so cool to see those two sport worlds colliding, and hopefully little girls are like, so many sport options. Where do I go? Like, play them all, decide later.
I was kind of waiting because I saw like there's a lot of photos of Sarah Byrne and Chloe Kelly, and I was like, there must be a TikTok being made right now.
Ooh, haven't seen it yet.
How's that not
in the
dropped?
works?
Surely. There were so many opportunities for both of them to go.
I'd be surprised if they came out of that change room without a couple TikToks made.
I mean.
So in other record-breaking news, we had New Zealand, who we haven't touched on too much in the last couple of weeks, but we're definitely going to dive in today, beating Japan 62-19 in Exeter, Sandy Park. We have to give a shout-out to the GOAT, Portia Whitcliffe. Absolutely incredible. She's now New Zealand's all-time leading try scorer with 50. She's surpassed legend Dougie Howlett, and that's in just 30 test matches. Gonna let that sink in, because I think people forget that she's only played 30 15s test matches. She's played, we were just talking about this, they count it by the series or the tournament, how many tests or caps you get for 7. So she's rolling in those, but 15s is relatively lower. And to hit 50 and surpass that record, incredible. What did you think?
Well, we were saying earlier that it's almost surprising that 50 is the record for the All Blacks and the Black Ferns, because obviously they've dominated the world stage for years and years. But then equally, it was brought to light how the depth of player, how quickly that turnover is. So to actually, especially for her, like, she's not, I'm not going to say she's old, but she's not one of the younger players, obviously. And that's how you get so many points on a board and how you get so many caps. But it just shows like what an unbelievable athlete she is, because she's been away from the 15s game for many years, going through World Series after World Series, to then come away with the record that's both beating the women and the men's side of New Zealand rugby is like incredible.
It just seems like impossible for people not to take notice. Like, they said this is going to be the biggest women's World Cup. I feel like that's already delivering, and we're only 2 rounds in. Yeah. Like, it's incredible to see her dominate that across men and women's game, and we'll get on to it later, but there can be kind of a dark side and a not so nice side of social media and how people react to women in this space and women's rugby. But you have to take a second and just appreciate the absolute weapon and athlete she is. And she's done great things for the game as well, using her platform in such a great way. And we see her joined by Kelly Brazier, another really experienced player. And there's no question that Portia, Kelly have really paved the way for this up-and-comer Braxton Sorensen McGhie, who I'll let you touch on.
Well, we've got another hat-trick hero. So Braxton, she is joining the hat-trick heroes of the World Cup. So there's 4 hat-tricks scored.
Exclusive club.
In the last round. And this round, she has joined that. And again, just making huge breakaway tries, 50 metres out, knowing that she's actually probably quicker than most people on the pitch. And then just, again, bringing a bit of a superstar feel to the whole of the Black Ferns. I think obviously there's been so much chop and change of players within that squad, and there's lots of youth coming through, and then you've got the Portia Woodmans and Keller Braziers in that squad as well. So it's just everyone's sort of stepping up for them now. It's not, I don't think they have been as clinical as maybe somebody like the Red Roses have been. They've been tested maybe a little bit more so than what the Roses have so far, but to still put 62 points on Japan, who are still a up and coming nation within women's rugby, but actually a very clinical side. They just maybe don't have the size behind them that people like the Black Ferns or teams like the Black Ferns have. So to try and balance out skill over actual physical brute sometimes with rugby is kind of hard.
I think someone else that we've sang a lot of praises to that we're going to come back to again today is Georgia Miller. She's been so incredible. She's only 21 as well. All these youngsters just absolutely tearing it up, looking
with the confidence.
So confident. Yeah, we want it. We're like, how do we tap into this? But she's been incredible, transitioning from sevens. Both of her tries, world class. She's not just scoring like, oh, I'm the last forward on the edge, I'm going to dot it down. Like her first try, she's in and amongst the backs, strike, off the line out. Yeah. And she, again, just recognizes those turned hips. Like it's all that like kind of sevens open space knowledge, and she runs in for 40, 45 meters.
Just so confidence with it. I think that's, again, it's just that hybrid of what New Zealand have at this point. They have the likes of Georgia Miller that would probably fit into a backline for most other teams. Definitely. But you can't not have her on the side, and her in and around. She's so speedy off things like the scrum, or to have outside of the line out in your back line is just such a threat. And I think if you do use that correctly and you get all other parts of your game right, you get your set piece right, then it just opens up, even if it is that couple of inches for a player like Georgia Miller, they'll make something happen. And then you have your finishers of Portia Woodman and Braxton on the edges. So they are a strong side. It's just getting it to click in the clinical manner that they need to.
But we also love to see a game this weekend that I think we thought was going to be, and it delivered. It was definitely, could have gone either way, but very exciting, was our Spain-Ireland matchup. We have a couple Spanish girls at Quins that we are so excited to support.
Happy for.
We have newly signed Aoife Wafer that unfortunately is still sidelined with her injury, but it was great to see her pack again, rally in her absence. But yeah, such an exciting game, so much energy in the crowd again.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that one?
Well, it was really interesting because if you watched the last bit, so Ireland have won, Spain obviously lost, and the body language of the Spanish girls were so happy. They were so happy, and then Ireland were like, poof. That was a much tougher game for us than even though the scoreline, put 43 points past anyone's a lot. But again, it's just that fun that Spain are bringing to this tournament, and hopefully that just doesn't die for them. Like they know where they stand within probably the world rankings, and meeting up with teams like Ireland, who are definitely on a roll of good success so far, to just turn up to a team, play them like that. That's a great place for them to be. I think Ireland will be, from a defensive point of view, not necessarily the happiest with that. There were some sort of soft tries in there. And with the pack that they have and the back line that they have, there were a few rotations in that. But still, if you are pushing to come out of quarterfinals with, a good chance of getting into those semis, those bits really need to be ironed out for them. And they'll know that anyway. It was a rotated squad somewhat, and Spain are here to still play. They're still here to play, and they will chuck the kitchen sink at it, as they did even with England with that big scoreline. They still got the try. They still were pushing that whole 80 minutes. So yeah, I think Ireland will just go back and they'll know what bits need to be tidied up around defence. Yeah, Spain was just so exciting to watch. They're a team that's not afraid to play, and you're right, like after that maul try right at the end, I think it was like a trick play off to Chris, the hooker in the edge, and just to see the like elation on all their faces. Bimba, our teammate at Quins, captain for Spain, just so incredible to see them show up, and like a never say die, like never roll over and die kind of attitude. We saw them score in different ways through Claudia in the backs and through their pack. So yeah, just so exciting to see a team come with that kind of energy and say like, hey, we belong in this tournament too. We can push a European nation that sees so much more rugby than us, so much, stronger competition typically. And they still had things to celebrate. It's not saying that it was a really bad day at the office for them. It was their Ireland's highest ever points tally in a Rugby World Cup. So to put 43 points on a team for Ireland, that's still a great win for them.
And they were beating them at half.
Yeah.
So let's hear it. Let's hear it for the Spanish girls. They're so exciting to watch. Can't wait to see them in the next round and how they close out this tournament in a really big way. But another major triumph of this tournament so far has been South Africa, who made history for their nation.
Oh, yeah.
Beating Italy 29-24. Such a nail biter. Such an interesting matchup of a team that has so much brute physicality versus Italy, who maybe wants to jouer a bit more, has that kind of French flair to them. But they're booking their first appearance in the knockout stages of a Rugby World Cup.
That's so fun. That's
so
what this
incredible.
whole tournament should be. It's like you get given your opportunity as any team coming into a World Cup. You get your opportunity and you've got to take it. I think if you look at the hard facts of it, Italy play more rugby. There's a lot of those girls are now in the PWR as well. There's a lot of Italians that have been based in Sale. We have Silvia Tirani as well at Harlequins, and there is a few more. But you can't, sometimes that sort of passion can't overtake the fact that South Africa are extremely physical side. I remember watching them play USA in like a summer series 2 years ago and just thinking, these girls are not here to mess around. They hit and stick and they hurt. So I think you can't take away that Italy aren't necessarily the most physical, presence on a pitch. They're very, very creative, and some of their halfbacks and back three players are super, super entertaining to watch. But sometimes that brute force, you just can't outpower that. And I think South Africa, if anything, that's something they deliver. And so they capitalised that day.
Without a doubt. And I think that's something that, I don't know if we say it just amongst the Canadians or if I've heard it from anybody else, but sometimes when we, prep for playing them or think about matching up, we're like, you know what? Like 8 versus 12 versus 6 versus 2, like they're all so strong. They all hit the same, like it's like coming up against the best tackler 1 through 15. They just invite that contact. They're so comfortable in that space. And I think the Italians just maybe didn't have that kind of brute strength to be able to come up against that. And they're both, exciting teams in their own way to watch. But South Africa, that they really put their mark on the tournament, and we're so happy to see them come out on top. And their captain described it as absolutely magic. And she was just talking about how it is just such a true testament to the team's evolution and determination and ability to stick in a country where it is challenging in women's sport. And we've chatted with players that have worked in and amongst it, and it is still very like a male dominated, rugby space, and it generally is. But in that country as well, that's something that they're still trying to get recognition for and resources for the women. So to see them be rewarded for that hard work is just absolutely incredible, and we couldn't be more excited for them. And it also marks their entry.
Well, that I was going to say, hopefully
10.
that definitely does, hopefully them reaching into a top 10 position now will hopefully turn the heads of that governing body that is overlooking both men and women's game and go, actually, these girls are showing up now. Let's take this seriously, because you've had some of the likes of Babala Latza come over to Harlequins, same as Danelle Lochner. Again, both unbelievable athletes, and knew that in order for them to get better, it's overcoming into this PWR in the English League. But let's just hope that, if the men's team is so successful, and now that they're in the top 10 position, take them seriously. They're here to really shine on the world stage. And to beat Italy, a team that definitely has played together for years and had so many opportunities within World XV and Six Nations for years and years to come together and perform. Take them seriously now, guys.
I don't know if you've clocked this as well, but at a few pre-World Cup games, Sia Khaleesi is on the bench, sitting in and amongst some of the girls. And it's really cool to hear that he's using his platform to say, South Africa, pay attention to these women. They're doing amazing things. Like he said, Danelle and Bibi. Danelle, I think, was poached from netball to 7s to 15s. And they're just finding absolute athletes and then, putting them together in this amazing team that's willing to fight tooth and nail for each other. And for him to help raise that profile. And I see him on Instagram sharing highlight reels, like not even just South African players, like
no, it'd be anyone.
Any international. He's like, have you seen this? Or like tagging people, like, and it just gives girls a little bit of like excitement to be like, that is so cool that World Cup winner is, forwarding, putting our videos out there and screaming from like the hilltops of like, you guys need to tune into women's rugby. It's such a spectacle. So more of that.
So we'll go through a quick rundown of the other results then. So we've got USA, what a game, 31, Australia, 31. Crazy. And that only really came to life in that second half, I think, for it to be that much more of a close game where people just didn't know what was going to come from that one.
For sure. And there was some familiar names that we were seeing flash up on the screen. Erica Gerald Searcy scored an amazing try right near the death. Karpani for Australia. But Caitlin House was absolutely incredible. Another youngster, again, backing herself when she sees the hips turned. She did the big, are you not entertained, when she scored both times, I think. Again, love that.
Yeah.
Again, making a big statement about showing up at this tournament. But wow, yeah, we knew this would be a good game, and it was right to the final whistle. And there was a couple conversions that Mackenzie Hawkins, and I know she'll be maybe a little bit disappointed in. One fell off the tee, ran out of time. Another one, maybe makeable distance, missed that. So those are a couple things that you're maybe kicking yourself after the game. But they both rolled up knowing that was going to be a tough game. And what an exciting one to watch. Under the lights game, you're right.
Yeah.
Greasy conditions. Like that's, why we play rugby.
It couldn't have been a more English night game, to be honest, for them to welcome Australia. This is what it's like to play.
True, and they just got out of their summer, and their summer's like that. So they're like, we have no relief.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll make it so interesting for who makes it onto the quarterfinal. And this is where we get into the facts and figures. So I'll see if I get it right. So as it stands, we have 8 points for Australia, and we have 3 for our USA buddies.
And for clarity, a win is
4.
Yeah.
Bonus point if you score more than 4 tries is another 1. So we could see one option is that USA scores that many tries and gets 5 points when they play England this coming weekend, and that would tie them with Australia. So that means then Australia would have to go on against Samoa. And they would have to not gain a single point.
Correct.
Which
is probably not very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Actually is highly unlikely.
So that's a tough one. And then if that all evens out points-wise, we then go down to the head-to-head, which obviously ended 31-31. But the plus-minus works in favor of Australia, as they are plus 73 and our Americans are minus 62. So that would mean there's a deficit of 135 points that would need to be scored
against
Samoa.
Yeah. And if England are scoring 97, it's a big ask.
It's a tall order, and it keeps things exciting because it still won't be decided until that final game, but really tall order for the States.
But I'm really happy for the Wallaroos, to be fair. They put a huge number on Samoa, and that's not to say that they haven't been exposed to a lot of rugby, but still that's a massive scoreline for you're kind of used to seeing the Red Roses run over teams that maybe are not in form or haven't played that much rugby. But the Wallaroos at times have coughed up, they coughed up against Wales in their pre-World Cup series with them, and so it was a real statement for them to go, we know we need to beat USA in this, and we know we need to do it by points, really. Obviously they want to win, but if it does come down to, the first draw of the World Cup was that game, they had to nail down that score against Samoa. And to be fair to them, they did do just that.
They did, and I think we're seeing players stand out in the forwards and the backs that are really delivering on that. We're seeing Desi Miller put her hand up with the tries and really pinning her ears back and doing what's required of her on the edge. We're seeing Piper Duck back from, she's had a lot of serious knee injuries, and I believe she is leading the tackle count with 47 or somewhere up there. She's been absolutely irreplaceable for them. She's been incredible doing work around the park. So yeah, it's been great to see them come out in form when, you're right, maybe there's been a couple games pre-World Cup that made them feel a bit shaky and not in their best form. So yeah, great things from them. And while it is mathematically possible, it's looking more like an Australian quarterfinal.
Yeah.
On to a few other games that piqued our interest and were, just some great matchups to see. We had Scotland triumph over Fiji, 29-15, and Fran back at it again. 2 tries. She actually charged down a conversion, which
she did.
You don't see a lot, but love to see it when we do. Rhona Lloyd, who's been a mainstay in the Prem, played a bit in France. She's such a jouet player. She had 2 tries herself. Emma Orr, I think we spoke highly of that back line that's really clicking at the right time.
Yeah.
Last couple of weeks, we've been speaking about that, how clinical they look, how confident they look, chasing after each other's kicks and putting each other into space, not when you don't have to check your run or hold your feet, you can just come onto the ball full pace. Like that's what they're delivering at this time, and they're peaking at just the right time, just before they meet up against Canada in the last pool game.
Yes. But Fiji, to be fair, they still scored some great tries. There was some great link-up tries and very, very physical throughout. I did want to shout out Katie Mattinson, who's the replacement 9 for Scotland.
Yep.
She fed 2 absolute plum passes, which led to 2 tries, and it was just to the line. And I think if you are trying to beat teams like Fiji, bear in mind that's not a huge scoreline. Like 29 points to 15 is not huge.
No.
You have to play on top of teams like Fiji because they are so physical. I think they had quite a few penalties for essentially high tackles and being in the Fijian way of physicality. And so I just wanted to shout out, maybe that's because I had my little I9 9 eyes on, but such a great impact to have off the bench and, encouraging Scotland, who might not necessarily be known as the most physical. We say a lot about their backline, but she really fed that into the game and played on top. So I do think she was a big part of that win that day.
Way to go, Katie.
And then we're on to Canada. Now we did expect a massive game for Canada to come out against, I guess, a struggling Wales side. 42-0. They nilled Wales. I know, again, Wales aren't necessarily in their, in form at the moment, but it is, again, another massive statement for Canada that they are not taking their foot off the pedal. They want to make statements. They want to get to these quarterfinals and semi-finals and hopefully their final in the best form that they can be. And if that means capitalising with a 42-0 effort, to nil, Wales kept coming back and they did want to put points on the board, obviously. And there was a really cool try-saving tackle from Liv Apps, the replacement scrum half. Karis Cox was steaming down the touchline and Canada pretty much said, no, we're not having any points on the board today. And there were some really cool close contacts as well they were picking and going. They were trying everything, Wales, and they just couldn't break that defence. So, again, it's a really exciting place for Canada to be in, leading into quarterfinals and hopefully semis.
It's just such a statement to goose egg a team at a tournament like this, isn't it? And it's not just any team, it's Wales, who are known for being so physical and wanting to confront you. And I think Canada showed up in a big way exactly to say, you're not going to break this door down. We're going to double tackle you if you think you're broken to our corner and you're going to score, a really wide try and get a wide kick to attempt, backspace a couple sentences. You're not even going to get the try. So that was incredible to see from them. And I think something that's been really motivating within the camp is you keep hearing in these pregame interviews like, oh, Canada, dark horse. No one's really, you're really underestimated, or, people maybe don't have you in their sights. And I think Alex Tessier, the captain, deals with it so well. She's like, yeah, people can say that if they want.
I loved her interview. She was just she just laughed it off. She was like, yep, that's been thrown around a fair few times now. And
she's like, if you want to put us in that shadow, fine. We're emerging from it and you'll see what we're capable of. And this game was exactly that. Such a statement. We saw McKinley Hunt really put her hand up in the front row. She's been having really strong showings for Saracens in the PWR. And I think she's just somebody consistently, then when you're the 9 and you look up and see she's your next, you're almost like, okay, it's McKinley. She just is putting her head down, in those tough spaces right near the try line where people's knees and elbows and feet are. And she's just, I'm seeing that line, I'm going to get through. And she is so consistent with that. And then I think we can't forget about the return of Sophie de Goede, who's been very much missed through her injury. I think Gabrielle Senft has done an incredible job in the back row, and she has earned to keep that jersey. And now that's shifted Sophie a bit into the second row. And I think Sophie's kind of making a statement of put me wherever you want. I'm going to be a game
as long
changer.
as she's on the pitch, and she will slot the conversions for you. So
she will.
She has got such an unbelievable boot.
She has made such a statement in that past game. I know that ACL injury put her out of selection for the Paris Olympics, and that was definitely, a frustrating bit for her. And I think that just fueled her fire to get back for this World Cup in such a big way. And yeah, slotting into the second row, she's still dominating in the lineouts. She has that basketball background. So if it's even a hand further than it should be, she's grabbing that back with one hand. She was getting through so much work around the park, and a really well-deserved player of the match from her. So it's good to see that. I think she's back playing that like comfortable, confident, like pick and go through the ruck type of rugby. I think she's maybe been feeling her way back into the game a little bit in those games against South Africa and Ireland leading back in. But I think she's like, at round 2 of the World Cup, I'm here and I'm ready to lead this team by example again. So well done, Sophie. Great things from you. So we can't forget about France. I know we had our chat about Bourdon Sansu, who is always dangerous, and you can't forget about her and a lot of the players on that French outfit, but they were absolutely dominant to secure their spot. Again, we're saying teams making statements in this stage of the pool round. Absolutely incredible from them, keeping Brazil to 1 try, but exciting for Brazil as well. That's so something to highlight. Bianca Silva, I know I've seen her name, written across articles and out on social media millions of times because she's lit it up on the 7 stage so many times. But for them to score their first ever World Cup try against France again, who is a nation that is hard to get through, hard to penetrate defensively, great for her and great for Brazil.
Yeah, no, that's just a really nice place for them to be in. That again, just embracing that world stage, and I'm so glad that Bianca got that, because she is a great girl.
I feel like France is going to be an exciting team to keep up with over the course of this tournament as well, because they've, gone through their pool relatively unscathed, and it's going to come to the quarters, and teams, whoever is up against them is really going to have to do their homework because they just pull things out of the hat. They're an absolutely magic and electric team. We saw them push England in that final game of Six Nations, where it was an absolute fight to the death, and they probably felt hard done by to not come out on top because they had all that momentum. But wow, like that's going to be a team to really tune into and pay attention to in that quarterfinal game, that whoever they're up against is going to have to do their homework.
Okay, so we have our Rugby Rodeo performer or performance of the week, of the round of the World Cup. So some key people to highlight. Who are you bringing to the table?
So I have to give, as a fellow back row, I have to shout out 2 incredible back rows from the weekend in Evie Gallagher and Rachel Malcolm, who tackled essentially anything that moved that wasn't in their own colors and wasn't the ref. They made 35 and 25 tackles respectively. So that's Evie with 35.
That
Rachel
is
10 behind her.
Just silly amount of tackles.
It's just everything you want from your leaders. I know Rachel, she's previously been a captain for Loughborough Lightning for years, and Evie's been a mainstay on the Scottish side and a leadership player as well herself. And that's just what you want to see. You want to have a player that's leading by example, putting their head in those uncomfortable spaces, throwing their body around, rolling around and saying, where's the next, or rolling up rather and saying, where's the next tackle? Where's the next person to hit? And Rachel and Evie are definitely those types of players who, army crawl out of a breakdown and then are making the chop tackle on the person that they pass to. So just huge shout out from them. That's everything you want to see in a back row. More of that going forward, and teams are going to have to be super aware of that. But yeah, great performance from both of those girls in the back row.
I am going to bring Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe back to the table. We've already spoken about her New Zealand record that she beat with her top try scoring.
Yep.
However, she beat 8 defenders on the weekend, which is very, very impressive. But I think anyone that looks at her highlight reels or is just watching her in the cold day of light, she runs with so much confidence. She is so athletic. She's so powerful. Everything is a movement off her, so you can't hang off her. You can't wait for her to step you and then, run the rest of the... She's gone. So that's why I'm bringing her to the table. I think she has just been such a threat within this tournament already. We're only 2 games in.
There's so much more rugby to see from her, and she's, if it's possible, she's building on each performance and getting better each time. So it's so exciting to see. And then behind her, we have our youngster Braxton Sorensen McGhie, who deserves a shout out as well. She completed a hat trick in her match 4 conversions from 6 attempts, 23 points this round, eclipsed slightly by Helena's, who had 27, but what a performance from her. We said she was electric, quick, young, and just filled with that confidence, and she showed it in heaps on the weekend, and it was so exciting to see her carve it up. Learning from and working in and amongst the likes of Portia Woodman and Kelly Brazier, Renee Holmes, like, how can you not feel like you're the most blessed player on that field? And she's blessing her teammates right back with the incredible play she's bringing. There's no question she deserved to be on this roster and to be in every fixture going forward. So well done, Braxton.
And then finally, bring our girl Jess Breach to the table. A hat trick, surpassed 50 Red Roses tries, and getting closer to the Red Roses all-time record. So, and she got her slides in as well. She dived for the line. So she's doing this in style. So that's why I'm bringing Jess to the table on that one.
Who is our player of the round then? If we have to vote, who are we going for? So I'll throw it out there. Agree with me if you agree, and if you don't, you don't. But Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe, I feel like she takes the cake on this round. Everyone did amazing things across this second round, but to break that record, Dougie Howlett, who's held that record for however many years, incredible to have her put her hand up and put women's rugby and female, the Black Ferns on the map is so incredible. And she, I think we keep talking about how grateful we are to have her at this tournament because she retired, came out of retirement and said, I'm not done and look what I can do. And
I'm not done and I'm going to take the record now.
And I'll be taking that. Thank you so much. Yeah. So incredible from her. Just something that turns heads. She's been turning heads as long as she's been in this game, but with that going down in history, you can't miss that.
We're in agreement.
Lovely.
So social media of the week. I think we want to, also reach out to Georgia Evans. She had a big week of obviously getting a tough loss against Canada, but then was followed up by some, essentially the dark side of social media and what that can bring, and, being told what makes her look bad on game day, whether it's her, accessories, her bows that she's been wearing for years and years within the Premiership and when she plays for Wales, or, the pink tape that she puts on. She's just trying to express herself. And if people can't accept that people are different and they want to express themselves in different ways, then, just keep your mouth shut. We don't need those sort of negative comments, coming our way, even though it has actually boosted a lot of exposure to the women's game. And there has been so much support for her. So many different social media platforms and magazines are now supporting her, and their heads have turned and gone, oh my goodness, this tournament is now bringing even more stories to light. But, it's just a classic case of, and Georgia put it so nicely, she's bringing a bit of Barbie to this old, white, traditional man-run sport. So, and I don't think those two words have ever really collided with rugby and Barbie and old men.
Truly. And rugby and women's rugby in general has been about, breaking those glass ceilings and, reaching into those spaces that people didn't think were possible for us. And what a great, figurehead to put that message out there. It's ridiculous and frustrating that we're still having these conversations of discussing how a player looks when it has absolutely no impact on the badassery she's able to play out on the field and how she's able to command, whatever field she's on, whoever she's playing for or against. It should have no airtime. She's going out there and doing amazing things. And you're right. She kind of said, I'm in this space just as much as anyone else. And it doesn't impact what I do on the field. And this is how I express myself, how I feel confident, how I go out there presenting myself is for me. And she said, if you're with me and supporting me, I'm going to keep going. And, lucky you, I'm not going to change. And if you're not liking it, so sad, too bad. I'm not changing it. This is who I am. And we love to hear girls backing themselves in this space and, not conforming to what a rugby player looks like in 2025. What is that?
Yeah.
We are all that. And rugby is such an inclusive space, and we're not, tolerant of people that don't see it that same way. So well done, Georgia, way to use your space to forward that message. And same with the Welsh Rugby Union. I think they got behind her in a really big way and made that statement loud and clear. So have you seen this? One of my favorite clips of the week. We had a youngster as the Scottish mascot walking out with Rachel Malcolm. Looks to be her biggest fan. You need to see this. Okay. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. So we have it on Reddit here, and it's saying a reminder of why representation matters. Oh, okay. We have the
look at her
cutest little mascot. I love the deep breathing she's going through right now. Like, Rachel Malcolm. And then Rachel gives her the time of day. You know, how are you? What's your name? What club? You know, what's your position? This girl is just loving life.
She is absolutely on top of the world there, about to lead out with probably one of her favourite players.
It's like the opposite of never meet your heroes. It's like meet your heroes. They're right there. That's so incredible. And yeah, Rachel's such a great person to be leading that team out, and to see how excited that girl is to brush shoulders with her. Yeah. More of that. We love that.
But the girls are so approachable. I think within women, we understand that opportunity, especially as the stage is getting so much bigger than it was even 5 years ago, even the last World Cup or the World Cup before that, which a lot of players did play in. You are now creating like so much more of a hype for, you know, girls leading out as a mascot. It's a huge event now, and these people have been on TV. They have been pushed. You know, the players now are becoming household names, maybe not too farly spread from the world of rugby, but people know who these women are now, and they have a chance to meet them and walk out with them onto a massive stage. It's becoming just such a wholesome but deserved platform.
I think it's a pinch me moment on either side of that little girl that's next to Rachel Malcolm being like, oh my gosh, I'm next to Rachel Malcolm. And then equally, like, Rachel's such a humble and like collected and proud player herself. She's like, you know, I'm getting recognized after all these years of like putting in 25 tackles in a match. Like, you know, doing the hard drives back and forth from club to, you know, being like a lecturer, a PhD student, like to then step in that space where you're being like touted as a superstar in your own sport. Like, I honestly think they're both pinching themselves in that moment, and how cool. Like, that little girl's the future, Rachel's the present. You know, whoever's stepping into the spotlight to fill those boots for women's rugby, Scotland rugby, whoever it is, whatever team it is. It's just so exciting to see how the game is growing. So love that. So cute.
That's a nice piece to go through. Okay, so a huge shout out to Rugby Pass for always like clipping up these special moments and almost telling a story through somebody's conversion, essentially. And that conversion was from Vital scoring the only points against England that Samoa did that day. But they've clipped it in such an amazing way that you capture every bit of her emotion pre-kick, watching that ball go over the posts and the celebrations that come after it.
I love the kind of like moment by moment. They're saying what goes through a kicker's head, like, you know, steady, breathe. This is just like a kick you've executed thousands of times. And it is like such a cliche, but it is so true for a kicker. Like, it doesn't matter in that moment how many hours you've spent on the park, how many balls you kicked. In such a pressure cooker moment, obviously they know they're not winning that game, but to be able to make history for her team, she would be feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. Yeah. And to be able to convert that, and you're right, Rugby Pass capture that and like make such a story around that micro moment. Like, that's how we're getting women's rugby, you know, out there, and we're getting to hear from those nations that aren't always in that major spotlight. Like, they're spotlighted in their own right for those small moments. So that was so exciting. And to see their coach be so emotional after the game. If you want your heart warmed, Rugby Rodeo fans, check it out. Go watch the post-game press conference. He was just so impressed with his team's ability to stay united and connected and really show up in such a heartfelt and prideful way against one of the best nations in the world. So that's a heartwarming clip of the week for sure. Okay, to wrap up, we have some shout outs. Firstly, we have the newly formed Haywards Heath women's team. So 80% of their players have never played the game before. Wow. Growing the game. Let's go, grassroots. Awesome work, and all the best, ladies. We can't wait to see what you get up to.
Dunfermline under 18s up in Scotland have asked for a shout out for their great start to the league. Although it may only be early days, but well done, lassies.
So we're staying in Scotland for this next one with the Cartha Queen's Park WRFC, who need a shout out because they have players that have been traveling all over England to watch the Rugby World Cup games. But they still have made it back to Glasgow in time to play their first and second 15s match. So great commitment, gals. Playing yourself, following the girls around the world. Let's go.
Good luck to the Ilkeston Impalas, and I do want to know if you actually have an Impala mascot, who are hosting their first ever Girls Love Rugby festival, and also the Matlock ladies, who are playing their first game as a team since folding during COVID times. So massive congrats and welcome back.
And last but not least, we have a massive good luck to the Sheffield Hallamshire RUFC, who have their first ever match this weekend.
Woohoo!
Rugby Rodeo is behind you. Let's go, girls. So thanks again to everyone for listening this week. We'll catch you next week after the final round of the pool stages. Make sure, if you're enjoying the show, to give us a follow and subscribe on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. But for now, yeehaw!